I have what I call my slut family, which are my close friends who we all love group sex and just shenanigans. And so, when I have my slut family gatherings, it's like the way my sister-in-law and her besties get together and rent an Airbnb, except that, we're cooking dinner and playing board games and drinking wine or whatever, and then we fuck. And my sister-in-law finally, she still can't wrap her head around it other than, I'm like, these are your ride and die people for the rest of your life, and you know that. The only difference between you and me is I fuck them, and you don't. And it's okay.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 446. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have an absolutely delightful conversation with Reid. Reid Mihalko has been a sex educator for over 20 years and is the founder of reidaboutsex.com, that's R-E-I-D aboutsex.com, Sex Geek Summer Camp, Sex Geek Conservatory, and the Sex Geek School for Gifted Sex Geeks. Just to name a few of the things Reid has done in his life.
I was curious if you're going to make it through that last one. It's a bit of a tongue twister.
There's a theme.
And Reid was also the facilitator of our community workshop in April, which you can access the recording of if you're a member of our community. But we're not talking about our community right now. We'll get back to that in a minute. Back to today, we've been at various events with Reid over the last few years, but we haven't really had a chance to get to know him very well. And so it was really wonderful to be able to sit down with him for this interview to really dig in. Basically, this conversation is a combination of Reid's own personal origin story, his origin story as a sex educator, and an absolute fuck ton, I guess that's a technical term, of incredible tips, tricks, and wisdom all rolled into one. As you'll hear, Reid's journey to become a sex educator was largely born out of his own desire and need to figure out how to do sex and relationships better in his own life. Not relatable at all, Emma.
Or maybe a lot relatable.
Maybe a lot relatable.
And in case you were wondering, yes, Reid sticks around to answer some fun bonus questions for premium subscribers as well. I mean, the whole interview is full of wild stories, but the bonus questions definitely take it up a notch or 10. We also get to hear about Reid's favorite sex advice ever, and we talk about dick chomping. Yes, that's dick chomping.
If you winced, you're not alone.
But trust us, you're going to want to listen to this bonus episode. If you're not familiar, our premium subscribers get ad-free podcast episodes, plus a new 10 to 15-minute bonus episode every week where our guests answer some fun extra questions and give us an opportunity to get them to know them even deeper than we do during our regular interview. You can sign up on our homepage of our website at normalizingnonmonogamy.com for just $4 a month. And if you go and sign up right now, you don't just get access to listen to our bonus conversations with Reid, you also get access to all of our past bonus episodes as well. And with that, it's time to jump right into the interview with Reid for all of our premium subscribers, and for everyone else, a few announcements.
The first announcement is that community we were teasing a little bit earlier. As you've probably heard before, Emma and I lead a community full of over 300 people from around the world who socialize and support one another every single day. We host our community on a platform called Mighty Networks, and we also have monthly community support Zoom calls, monthly virtual workshops, and in-person events as well, all for less than $10 a month. Our next virtual workshop is actually coming up tonight. That is May 27th. It's hosted by us. It is led by Miche, who used to do the Ask Us Anything episodes with me a few years ago. The workshop is called Building Emotional Resilience, and it will provide a grounded experiential space to build your emotional toolkit as you navigate non-monogamy. So you definitely want to come and check it out. But if you happen to miss it tonight, don't worry. One of the perks of our community is that you also get access to all of the previous workshops that we've ever done. You can find out more about those workshops, the workshops from the past and the workshops that are coming up the rest of this year by heading over to our website and clicking on the workshops tab. So again, to join these workshops, you got to join our community. That's under the community tab and just takes a few minutes. It's all right there on our website. We promise you'll find it and you'll find your way in. We'll see you tonight.
Next up, we wanted to remind all of you about our favorite way to get tested for STIs. It is stdcheck.com. You hear us talk about it every single week. It is a fast, easy, and discreet way to get tested for STIs. And when you use the links on the resources tab of our website, you get $10 off, making a 10-panel test only $129. And you support the podcast. So thank you so much in advance for using those links. And thank you to everyone who's used them in the past.
And the last thing we wanted to tell you all is that we would absolutely love to hear from you. Please send us an email if you have any questions, comments, or feedback about the podcast, or best of all, if you want to come on the podcast yourself to share your story. You don't need to be Reid Mihalko. You don't need to be the founder of a Sex Geek summer camp or anything like that. Of course, if you are, that's amazing. We'd love to hear from you. But you just need to be you, because the whole point of this podcast is for everyone to come on and share their stories so we all feel a little bit less alone as we figure out relationships in whatever way works for us. So head over to the Contact Us tab of our website, send us an email, and we'd love to hear from you.
And now let's go and talk with Reid.
All right. You want to start it, Emma?
Sure.
Me too. We always argue about this, and it's my favorite argument to have.
Just leave it in.
Just leave it in. Yeah. That's what she said.
Oh, but now it has to stay in.
That's our first soaking joke of the interview.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Reid. We're excited you're here. We got to meet you both at the Bonobo retreat and at Soul Play, and we're excited to dive in and just get to know you even more. So thanks for being here.
Welcome. Thank you for having me and doing all the work, seen and unseen, to record things and edit them and put them out. It's not a light task.
No, but we're going to try to have some light fun with it today. So
absolutely,
we're excited to, as Emma said, to get to know you a little bit better. Maybe we just start for anybody who doesn't know Reid at high level. Like, who is Reid? What brings you here today?
Well, let me. Okay, I warned you guys that I might do this.
Yeah, you're going to hijack.
I'm going to ask questions and hijack your own podcast. Okay, why do you think I should be on your podcast? Like, because I'm always curious. Because I get, kind of the golden retriever on espresso, and I'm a little bit wackadoodle sometimes. But like, why did you two think this was a good idea?
Well, I won't speak for Emma. No. I've learned not to do that, finally. I think for me, well, a big part of this whole podcast is really, to me, it truly is about normalizing it. We were actually chatting about that before we hit record. Mm-hmm. And for me, that is just telling as many different stories as we can. And when we meet people who I think have some of that golden retriever excitement energy and have been doing it for as long as you have, to me, it's really fun to just dig in and be like, what has that been like? Because I know we often see the like, hey, it's great, and I'm this educator and I show up. And when you show up in that space, you kind of have to bring the energy. But I also know, like Emma and I do that, and we also know that behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes on. Mm-hmm. It's not the glitz and glam that maybe people think it is all the time. Mm-hmm. And I love digging into that and hearing like who really is the person behind the figure we often see in front of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Similar. I think that really, we've known your work for a little bit, and I think that there's just so much to be learned from taking a little bit peek behind the curtain, and if so to say, I guess. Like, what can we have a different conversation than only about your work? We're excited to bring that in, but like about you too.
Yeah. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Well, I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is that I am this person almost completely, which is part of, I'm sure there are exceptions, but like everyone sees me as being the life of the party in certain ways. But when I do have my quiet moments, when my extroversion shuts down to recharge, which happens, but mostly like I'm annoyingly this all the time. In that, I'm a queer polyamorous slut. I didn't, I was the captain of the high school football team and the all-state football team in New Hampshire, and I was still a virgin, and the entire state of New Hampshire somehow knew that. It was weird, but I thought I was gonna get married and save my virginity for my my true love, and like things changed. So now I'm proudly and not trying to recruit anybody to be a queer polyamorous slut, but like this is who I am, and a lot of what I teach is the things I needed to learn that I wish I'd learned sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to help, and I hope I help people shorten their learning curves so they don't have to go through the frustration and the pain and the confusion that I had to go through. And that echoes. So my X-Men origin story is my mom and dad loved each other very, very much. They shared that special hug 4 times. And me and my 3 siblings, like we grew up with my mom and dad, like always making out in the kitchen and cuddling on the couch. And the biggest TV in the house was in their bedroom. So we all piled, and puppy piled onto the bed. It was a big water bed at the time because in the 70s, that's what you had to have. And 2 people who were madly in love who had no communication skills just grew more and more mad over the years, even though they never fell out of love.
Wow.
And at the end of their relationship, right before my mom died, because they just kept the fighting. They didn't know how to work through anything and repair anything. And so, my mom eventually would turn to alcohol to self-medicate. My dad was that generation of the woman I love, the mother of my children isn't happy. It must be because we don't have enough money. So he became a workaholic, which I think was also useful because he was away from the home. So the fighting was less when he wasn't home. Like all these things. And my siblings and I just saw this happen. And 2 people who were madly in love just ended up being really fucking mad at each other. And at the very end, they fought less and things got a modicum of better at home because they were too exhausted to fight anymore. And they just kind of gave up on fighting.
Yeah.
And I realized that like, that is not how you improve a relationship. Is exhaustion and like fatigue as a means of increasing your intimacy. And so I unwittingly was searching for all the tools that they didn't have because I wanted to love the way that they loved. And I grew up in New Hampshire. So it was like this committed New England, you just don't give up.
Yeah.
And so I started trying to figure out what were those things that they were missing. And then I went after college, I moved to New York City. I was a bartender and an actor. And so like I have cultural approval to ask everybody about their sex life as a bartender.
Yep.
and dating and like all these things to try to figure out like, how does this all work? And then eventually I would start exploring my promiscuity, and then like just wanting to be a good person. And I was a comic book nerd growing up. So like with great power comes great responsibility. You leave the campsite better than you found it. And so like, as somebody who was monogamous, like how do we do promiscuity? And like all of this stuff and what conservatively was probably about 150,000 conversations with people. If you did all the math and worked 6 nights a week and had 5 conversations a night with people, like eventually friends would send friends to the bar to say like, go talk to Reid. Like he's got some interesting ideas. And then a soap opera I was on, Guiding Light, back in the day. One day, all the producers came down to set and surrounded me, and they were all women. And I was like, oh shit, I'm getting fired. And they're like, Reid, we need to talk to you. And I'm like, am I getting fired? And they're like, no, like, but we wanted to tell you something. I'm like, I'm getting fired, aren't I? They're like, we just shut up. And they all knew me. And I'm like, what? And they're like, well, your name came up in the production meeting today, and we realized we've all gotten relationship advice from you. And we all think your advice is better than the advice we get from our therapists. We all have therapists. And we just thought we should tell you, like, we think you should charge money for your advice. And I was like, what?
Wow.
And I'm
An
like,
intervention.
yeah, I'm like, is this about my acting? And they were like, Reid, we all know you could be a better actor. That's true. But you have something really precious. And we just wanted to tell you that. And then it would probably take me 2 or 3 years because then I would ask all my friends, like, do you think I'd give good relationship advice? And all this stuff. This is way before I turned into a professional sex geek. And then in 2004, I created a workshop called Cuddle Party. And I ran it in my tiny 250 square foot apartment in Manhattan. And then Marsha Baczynski came to the second one, thank God. We partnered up. And then within a month, Cuddle Party turned into this international news story because New Yorkers were paying money to cuddle. And every morning DJ on the planet couldn't figure out why this didn't turn into an orgy. And so that launched my career as kind of a teacher and a spokesperson for platonic intimacy and touch and what happens when, we don't get enough of our touch needs met and how to navigate all those things. And at the same time, I was having my sexual renaissance and had been running orgies for my friends because I needed a place to figure out how to be a slut and how to be me. And then it all kind of dovetailed like a perfect storm together to be like, oh, the communication skills and the emotional self-awareness you need to navigate platonic touch and intimacy, it's the same skill set as navigating sexual touch and intimacy. And it's the same skill set for navigating group social sexual spaces. And so for me and my nerdy brain and everything that I had been looking for, I'm like, oh, this helps. And then it was me filling in the blanks of well, how do I sleep with amazing human beings who don't want to date? And how do we not fall in love? Because there's a whole thing there, and that would turn into the casual sex protocols. And how do I have my safer sex conversations? What do I need to say? And that turned into the safer sex elevator speech. And then one of my lovers, because I started figuring out it was poly, she was wrestling with jealousy and she was a research scientist. And so she and I nerded out, and then that created the 8-armed octopus of jealousy, framework. And so for me, thinking in frameworks and teaching, and I was very lucky back in college to have a really great karate instructor who taught me how to think about teaching. He was brilliant. And Sensei Bob, if you're listening, you know that's you. But it was just all these pieces came together in this unique way. And now I get the joy and the honor of trying to help people fuck up less and have more fun and get laid better and have healthier relationships, regardless of your sexual and relationship self-expressions. Because guess what? Having a healthy relationship with 5 people, pretty much the same skill sets as having a healthy relationship with one person. It's just that maybe you're an overachiever and, boom.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. I appreciate the background and how sort of how you got to where you are today, at least high level. But I think what is just really fascinating to me, and I think it mirrors so much, again, not speaking for you, but of my own experience, and I think a little bit of both of our own in the the analogy I often use, Michael Phelps is a fantastic, he's a great swimmer, right? And but is he a great teacher at teaching people to swim? Because if you're well, just be extremely athletic, have long arms, and there's not to say he doesn't have
great
technique.
O2 capacity and
Right.
Yeah.
But it's you can't, at a certain point, you're just I don't know, be an amazing athlete. But, he didn't jump in the pool with 20 other people and be like, hey, let's figure out how to swim.
Yeah.
Let's all learn to swim together. And I think that's so much of what I hear in your story is I worked at a bar and I talked to 15,000, or I had 15,000 different conversations. And I'm took something from each one and started to piece it together over years, and then started a cuddle party where I can't imagine on day one, you walked in, you're this is how we cuddle. You're I don't know. We're going to figure it out. We're going to mess up and we're learning.
I mean,
together.
there's the cuddle party's origin story, which you can find in other places. I don't know that we need to go into it here.
No,
but
yeah.
we could, is like, that was another unique situation because I was, after my martial art career, I got into massage, not professionally, but like I wanted to understand how to put bodies back together because I got really good at how to take them apart.
Yeah.
And massage was really useful and important. And I was trading a lot of massage. You're getting the cuddle party story right now. So trading a lot of trading a lot of massages with professional body workers. And then my acting career was starting to take off. So I wasn't always in town to trade with my friends. So they were pissed at me. And I didn't want them to hate me and never trade massages again. So what I figured out was, I'm like, how do I solve this problem? I'm like, oh, I'm going to get all of you together. We're going to trade massages together because also body workers are notorious for not taking time off to receive.
Yeah.
So let's all get together and receive. And then you'll all know each other and you can fucking leave me alone and stop complaining. And we called that massage party because we would get together and we'd do like 4-on-1 and just do little rotations, round robins, and work on each other. And everyone loved it. And then that started and then body workers I knew were inviting their body worker friends. And then that also turned into, hey, can I bring my friend who's a social worker or a nurse? Because they touch a lot in their work, but they never receive. And I'm like, sure. So it grew into this little, like, wasn't secret, but it was underground where people who had touch as a part of their vocation and touch as a vocabulary who didn't get enough would come and we would all work on each other.
Yeah.
And that the framework for that and how we facilitated it just worked really well. Then I would talk about, in the massage, body people would come to the bar and then I would introduce them to my friends and they're like, Reid, how do you know all these massage therapists? I'm like, oh, well, we do, we call it massage party and blah, blah, blah. And I had these two regulars, God bless them, they're construction workers, Matt and Chris. And every week I would come in, they're like, hey, when's the next massage party? And they're like, can we come? And I'm like, and they were sweethearts. And again, they work with their hands. They get no touch.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, you can come. And then they'd be like, no, it's too intimidating. Like actual massage therapist. No, I could never. But every week it became a shtick. And I'm like, you motherfuckers, like, just come. And they're like, no, we couldn't. And then one week I was just like, listen, if you guys are just going to be wimps about this, like, why don't you get some pajamas and get your blankets and your binkies and your teddy bears and come and I'll throw you a cuddle. Oh shit. And they're like, what? I'm like, I can throw you a cuddle party. And they're like, what? I'm like, because in my head I was like, wait a minute. If you don't have touch as a common vocabulary, the next closest thing is cuddling. And I already have a format for this. And I already knew how to make my friends who were strangers to each other feel comfortable for an orgy. It's just a platonic orgy. Oh shit, I can do this. And I stayed at the bar after we closed and it took me about 40 minutes and I wrote the entire script for Cuddle Party.
Brilliant.
Because I already it was just a mashup of all the things I'd already been doing. And then, that was it. So it was this perfect storm of a bunch of things. And I was just lucky enough to be able to see it all and capture it. And I do think for a lot of us, what we're looking for is just somebody who's done a little bit more than us, who's made some mistakes, who can capture the mistakes they made and at least warn us about them.
Yeah.
And a lot of education is really just friends skill set sharing. And this is why community is so important.
Yep.
And why like munches and meetups and get-togethers can be so important. Is just people not feeling alone and then hearing other people make mistakes and then how they fixed it.
Yep. Yeah. Get to know you're not the only one who's made them. To go to an event and be like, oh, this and this and this happened. I feel like such a fool. And 3 other people are like, yep, been that fool. I've actually been that fool 5 times, like.
Well, and even like not to, I mean, to take it deeper in another place too, like I was really, really lucky because of Cuddle Party's success. Marsha and I got to be invited to a lot of different events.
Mm-hmm.
And Dark Odyssey Summer Camp is this huge kink event that still goes on. And like they wanted Cuddle Party there, and Marsha was already kinky and I was just me, which means I'm not kinky. But I was like, we went to this event and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that with a Frisbee. And why are they digging a grave? And and Marsha just thought it was really funny. But like, I got to speak to all these nerds about their kinks and why they liked them. And me just chewing on all this information and like, again, like kind of being the bartender, asking people all these questions, right? Who had all this lived experience so that it helped me wrap my mind around things. But like for them, Cuddle Party was fucking super edgy.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, you're going to live burial somebody and, and hunt them in the woods before that. Like, what do you mean? So my voice was really high the whole weekend. But like those learning experiences and being invited to bring Cuddle Party there also helped me learn more about, so I'm not kinky. To vanilla people, I'm kinky because I like threesomes and group sex. But to my kinky friends, they're like, oh, bless their hearts. They think you're kinky. But like, it's just, again, it's a spectrum. It's a continuum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would start to be like, well, how does sex and love and intimacy and relationships come through you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, like, when I talk about relationship styles as being like music, a lot of us traditionally were raised in conservatory and we're taught, classical music is the ultimate expression. And you feel like you're broken because your roommate loves classical and maybe you're good at it, but you're not happy the way they're happy. And until you stumble into that jazz club late at night and listen to jazz for the first time, you wouldn't know that maybe music comes through you as jazz. And that was my like learning polyamory eventually was like non-monogamy is being like, oh, wait a minute. Like I'm not broken. I'm just not monogamous.
Yeah.
Monogamy doesn't make me happy. And then I had to learn, I went through a phase of, oh, you can spell polyamory. We should date. And then realize like, oh, wait, there are different kinds of polyamory. There are different kinds of jazz.
Yep.
So are we a good fit for the kind of jazz we want to play together? And then that would eventually kind of lead to like this idea of dating your species. And, are you dating somebody who is a good fit for you rather than just falling in love with a good person who ends up being a bad fit for you eventually?
Yep.
So,
Which is
I feel like I'm completely off topic from
it's great. It's great.
Okay. No.
I want to continue on this thread, but before we go, I have to ask, did the construction workers come to the first Cuddle Party?
Oh, those motherfuckers never came. Even when Cuddle Party turned into a hit, they were like, Reid, we are so proud of you. We are never fucking coming. And I'm like, you two are the reason this is even happening. And they're like, yeah, we're happy just reading about it in the paper and listening to it on the radio. And Matt and Chris, if you're listening to this, like reach out, man. I hope you guys are well. But they were the reason. It was their busting my balls that had the whole idea kind of come into being.
Yeah.
And now it's been 20 years of Cuddle Party.
Totally. I love that.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to Reid, for you on the I know the personal and the professional are very woven together, but you're having all these conversations. You're trying to figure out, how do I not recreate what I saw my parents do?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious what was simultaneously happening for you on a personal level as you're acquiring this knowledge, you're putting these pieces together. Are you dating? Are you starting to figure out this part of you that is like, oh, I like jazz, not classical?
The years now blur, but cuddle party would happen kind of as I was started. Like, so 1999 was the first group sex experience I ever had. It was a New Year's Eve party, 99 turning into 2000.
Could have
That's
been the end of the world.
Yeah, that's a big memorable
and it
moment.
wasn't supposed to be an orgy. I had friends of mine, a lesbian couple of mine who asked me if I would throw them an orgy, and I asked them why. And it was at my Christmas party. I threw a big Christmas party every year with lots of different people from acting, people from my art world, because I used to be a comic book artist a long, long time ago. I did stage combat and gun safety on small film sets. So like, it was acting, and then I was doing landmark education stuff, and and then I was bartending. So I had so many people from so many different walks of life who'd come to my Christmas party, and they would all like, Reid, the people at your Christmas party are amazing. Like, I've made friends and this and that. And my lesbian friends were like, would you throw us an orgy? And I'm like, why do you think I would do that? And I hadn't turned into the advice guy yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Because remember, 99, cuddle party would be in 2004. So it's probably 2001 or 2002 that the producers from Guiding Light said I should start charging money. So it was still, I wasn't this guy. And maybe I'm off by a year or whatever, but don't quote me. So I asked them, I'm like, why? And they're like, you would invite the right people. And they were kind of using the Christmas party experience as like, you would just invite the right people. And I was like, that is so weird. And then that night I went to all my friends at the party. I'm like, if I threw an orgy, would you come to it? And every one of them was like, absolutely. I'm like, why? And they all said some variation of, you would invite the right people. And I was like, what the fuck? And then my lesbian friends started riding me. Like, when are you throwing the orgy? I'm like, I'm not. I don't know how. And then eventually what we settled on was, I'm like, I will do ecstasy with you two for the first time, because I've never done that. And I'm still not hugely into, drug experiences. I prefer my sex sober. But I know communities where drugs and sex are like the nerdery.
Yeah.
That being said, so I agreed to do ecstasy with them for the first time for New Year's. And they're like, awesome. So I invite some of my closest friends. I'm like, would you want to be there to help me do ecstasy for the first time? And they were all like, that sounds like a fucking hilarious time. Yes. So that party, of course, the lesbians call me and they're like, we can't make it. And I'm like, you're the entire reason I'm throwing this event. And then I'm on the phone with them and I look over and we had dropped maybe a half an hour before. And one of my friends is giving another one of my friends a blowjob. And I'm like, I gotta go. Bye. And then it just turned into, it was so magical because I hadn't started rolling yet, but I went to them, everyone's watching, and I'm like, may I take your clothes off while this continues? And they were like, yeah. And so I just kind of like, it wasn't a ritual, like it wasn't intended like that, but I disrobed them both while they were still doing their thing. And then I turned to my next friend and I was like, would you like me to take your clothes off? And so I just went around the circle and took everyone's clothes off. Some people kept their underwear on and whatnot, but like I disrobed everybody and then everyone really started tripping. I'm still not rolling. And I'm like, man, this sucks. My friends take my clothes off, then I start rolling. And I remember, and then we're making out and like we're just this pile on the floor of arms and legs, and I'm tripping for the first time on ecstasy. And I remember at one point, I was so elated, I just rose from this pile of people and I just exclaimed, I'm like, I understand why people do drugs now. And all I remember were these hands reaching up and just pulling me back down. And one of my friends just putting her hand in my mouth and she was like, please stop talking. And they like sucked me back into the pile of people. And that was my first experience. And because I told everybody it wasn't supposed to be an orgy, I was so upset with myself the next morning. And I called all my friends. I was so worried I fucked it up because I'm like, we're all high, and this was before we really started thinking about consent in the same ways that we do now. Like, can you consent when you're high and this and that? But I was all in my head, and I'm calling all my friends, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And they're like, when is the next one? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you have to throw that again. That was amazing. I'm like, I didn't throw it this time. You can't throw an accident twice. And that they were so adamant that I had to do it again. It forced me to sit down and be like, okay, so what conversations do we need to have? What do I need to feel safe with my friends who've never done this before, putting all their trust in me and in each other? And that was the beginning of what would turn into the Play Party Welcome Circle, which now there are different communities and teachers all over the world who use pretty much that exact same format or approach. And there are lots of different ways to throw orgies and play parties and temple parties. And I'm very biased about doing it a particular way because I've got a lot of evidence that it seems to help a lot of people at different levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too, right? The again, sort of these things sometimes being born out of, I wouldn't even say, not to say a mistake, but like a moment where you're stopping and checking yourself and being like, yeah, everybody's happy, everybody's really excited about it, but something still didn't feel quite like almost like maybe we dodged a bullet here. Like we had a slam dunk and dodged a bullet at the same time.
Well, this is funny. Now I'm jumping back in because the dodging the bullet thing. So two things. The whole reason I started telling this story, but then got sidetracked, and I've been talking this whole time being like, what am I missing? Part of where this was also going was I got very lucky in the beginning that everything went really well. And when Marcia and I got invited to Dark Odyssey and these other kink events, I was also hugely blessed by amazing human beings like Angel Arioja and Ignacio Rivera, Marcia too. But there were activists and educators who were steeped in the restorative justice movement who kind of pulled me aside because I was the clueless cis white guy. And they're like, hey, I want to talk to you about privilege. And I'm like, okay, what's that? And they're like explaining privilege. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like with Spider-Man, like with great power comes great responsibility, right? Like leave the campsite better than you found it. And they're like, okay. And they took huge risks on me. Same thing with Melina William Haas. Being generous enough with me as a clueless white guy to be like, hey, can I just point out some things that you could upgrade that might help? And for me, because of a lot of different reasons, but also because of my martial art background, people offering you upgrades in the martial arts is a huge fucking gift.
Yeah.
And you just listen and then you go try things. To shut down suggestions to improve your technique is just stupid. It makes you a horrible martial artist. And so I think a couple of different pieces had me be a lot more interested, especially around racism and oppression and things that I knew I had dead spots or blind spots about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because they were able to help me wrap my head around restorative justice, and as I was really embracing my sluttiness, it just made sense to me that there's no way in hell over the years I would get every interaction right and clock everything. And then as you become more trauma informed and understanding, and also like from Cuddle Party and stuff, like watching people practice, like being able to say no and speak up and really figure out their wants, like you just understand that like, wow, like sex and relationships and consent, it's just really complex.
Mm-hmm.
And so I already knew, because they were so generous to point me in directions of being like, oh, so if and when I ever fuck up, how do we repair that? Because 15 years ago, repair wasn't really talked about the way that we talk about it now. And so back in 2018 during Me Too, like people did step forward being like, Reid, there's shit we haven't been telling you. And there's some upgrades. And I was lucky enough to already have known that restorative justice and transformative justice would be what matched my value set for trying to repair things. And so for people who are interested in that, you can go to readaboutsex.com/Reid accountability, and it's REID accountability. And that'll point you towards that whole process. And I stepped down from teaching for a year and went through a whole accountability process. And there are people out in my community who still don't think I should be teaching. So like all I can really say about it is I think I want people to go check out those resources and then make their own decisions.
Yeah.
But more importantly, if you don't think you're ever going to fuck it up, and you're also hanging out with people who never think they're going to fuck up, your community is missing a huge conversation that is really about, hey, how do we want to support each other in trying to do repair? And those conversations, I'm really excited to see starting to happen more. Like the Bonobo Network has a whole process that they have posted that's public. Viveke Sophia has, she's in Amsterdam. Her website, exploringdeeper.com, points to a whole bunch of things. Like there are some really great educators and activists out there who've kind of codified in ways that are useful. Like my process might not be the right process for some people.
Yeah.
But we have more choice now. And I really, really, really want people to put some time and effort into thinking about those things if they can, and install those things, upload those things into their communities so that we can have more conversation about that. And if you think you're going to be in a long-term relationship with somebody and never fuck up, I don't know how, like that perfection model is so outdated. And like, and all those pieces come together over time, and hopefully we help everybody else make less mistakes and get better at how we clean things up.
Yeah.
So I think I named the thing I was trying to remember that I didn't name. So now, next question.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing all of that, Reid, and just, I don't know, recognizing and that we are human and there's like everyone's entitled to their own opinions for sure, but there also are processes that we can in ways we can show up and learn and grow with each other. And everyone has, again, different opinions on that, but there can be different modes of doing it. But being able to speak to that and being like, there, instead of just shoving it away, I think, right.
And again, like for me, in that whole like perfect storm of weird pieces of my life lining up, like back in my acting days, because of my martial arts, I got into stunt work and stage combat. And because of that, I got into doing gun safety on small film sets and in theater. And like this, because somebody was having a conversation with me and I finally had the epiphany, because they were like, why are you so adamant about the welcome circle at orgies? Because you're the one person who like, we do not shortcut this. And there's an energy about it. Why? And in that conversation, I realized it's from gun safety on film sets, because there's a protocol, there's a checklist where you get everybody on set. Everybody has to be there, even if you're not in the scene, because we have guns on set and we have blanks on set, and people can die from blanks. And unless you know that, like, so you have to go through it all, and then you have to work with, actors who've never shot a gun before, who are going to be in this heightened state because of the scene, and then they're going to, some of us call redline. They're just going to lose their shit and not be able to think correctly, which isn't exactly the same, but similar to when you're really horny
Mhm.
and at a play party or on substances, and everything gets very wibbly wobbly.
Yep.
And so, like, I'm just very lucky that the harm reduction around gun safety was very similar in certain ways to the harm reduction that the sex educators I first got to meet who worked in HIV prevention and needle exchange. Like, it was very on the grounds in the trenches, realistic. This is not a pipe dream conversation about reducing harm. And again, like, reducing harm and repair are these pieces that communities miss, mostly because I think you haven't hung out with people who nerd out on that stuff yet. So how would you know to reinvent the wheel?
Mhm.
And then you're trying to invent the wheel after the car accident.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, a few things in here too, right? One is we, all of us here in this work we're doing is it's risky, it's pushing edges, it's trailblazing, it's all of these things. And when I think anytime you're doing something new and edgy, right, your risk of messing up goes up, right? And I think the best we can do really is, like you said, we can create a great conversation on the upfront and create a good model for, like, yeah, we'll reinvent the wheel before the car accident, and we understand how to put parts of the car back together after an accident. And I
Yeah.
and I think too, it sticks out to me that this is one of the key things that you talked about, watching your parents be madly in love and fight and never know how to do this process. And all it did over time was, like, pull them apart and make them more and more angry. And
Yeah.
we see that in community all the time, like,
All the time.
stuff, like, there isn't repair, we don't address things, the community suffers, the friend group suffers, starts to fracture, and now there's 2 friend groups that don't talk to each other, and pretty soon there's 3 friend groups that don't talk to each other. And instead of being like, well, how do we repair and not just push it down or divide with it?
Mhm.
And I'll say it's a fairly new for both of us. I mean, we grew
Yeah.
up, we've been together for 20 years, over 20 years at this point. We've known each other since we were 12. And you said that perfectionistic model that's outdated. That's the firmware that I know, again, not speaking for you, but that's the firmware I've been running for my whole life. Is
Yeah.
Yeah.
if I mess up, it's not 3 strikes and you're out. It's 1 strike and you are done, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that black and white thinking for me was just, it was everywhere. It was in relationships, it was in friendships, it was with family, it was with school, it was with everything in my life. And having now starting to learn models of, like, oh, you can mess up and still be friends with somebody. Like, that was new for me.
Mm.
Not that long ago, to be able to start to see the world in a way where it's not black and white. You're in or you're out. You have one chance.
Yeah. And then
So-
the internet has magically made everything so much better and given us so much more time and freedom to
exactly.
be messy. It's like,
Totally.
no, it's worse now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because
Yeah.
your mess ups don't just happen in your friend group. They go on to social media, and then they get blown up, and then they go viral. And pretty soon,
Yeah.
like you said, you went through this, a very public sort of repair process and restoration process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, like the way that some of us say, like, I'd never go back to high school. Like, I don't want to go back to college. Like, I don't want to be a young adult again, because the internet has just changed everything in weird ways. But also, I'm hoping somewhere down the line it's for the better.
Yeah.
And that might be just the nostalgia of an old man looking back and being like, things were better before the internet.
In my day,
just
yeah.
like somebody being like,
Yeah.
things were better before there were cars. Horses were the way to do it,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so.
Everything was better before Y2K. You could just have an orgy on ecstasy. The
Yeah.
world
Oh my God.
wasn't-
And everything was fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of the end of it all.
Yeah. I often say, like, I'm grateful I didn't have a smartphone till my later,
Oh,
like in my
so much.
20s. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, and then, and it is an interesting thing too to think about, because I do love nerding out with younger non-monogamous folk and being like, okay, so how does it work now?
Yeah.
Like, what's up? And like now polyamory is not like you kind of grew up knowing that was an option. Whereas for me, I'm like, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was either monogamy or cheating. When I fell in love with I was still in love with my high school sweetheart, and then I fell in love with somebody in art school, and it only could mean that I didn't love my high school girlfriend for reals.
Yep.
Because you only love one person at a time, right? And to rewrite that and have different options, and also not like, because I remember also in the early days, air quotes, of when I was teaching at polyamory conferences, a lot of people were shitting on monogamy. And I'm like, guys, if polyamory is a valid relationship choice, monogamy is too. And that would help me start to realize like, oh, this is like music. Like we can make fun of country music, right? Because you have to make fun of something.
Right.
But if country music is what truly brings you joy, don't be fucking playing German speed metal. Like that makes no sense. Like you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And then in a more relationship oriented dating your species version, it was like when you're a kid starting a band, your drummer is the only kid in your neighborhood who has a drum kit.
Yep.
There's no discussion about what kind of music are we going to play yet. So you just kind of had to deal with what you had. But like now you're older now, does your drummer want to play the same music as you, or are you two always going to be fighting over what kind of music? And then that's kind of like now there's different genres of poly. Non-monogamy, like are you a swinger, or are you this or that, or you're an anarchist? Like what are you?
Yeah.
And should we even be going on a second date?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious too, like I know you walked us through the cuddle parties and orgies, but where did actual like relationship polyamory or non-monogamy kind of start to fold in?
I'd have to like try to like really do the
Oh,
math.
you do
But
not have to do the math. It's okay.
no. But I think it was. I could figure it out. I could make a phone call because Angela would remember, and then that would make sense. And 2001, so a little bit after, Y2K, that's when it was all starting to come together. Because I remember for my 29th birthday, I wanted to host a spin the bottle party. And that was because when I was 28, I went to some actor's party, in an apartment somewhere in Soho or Brooklyn or whatever. And people started playing Spin the Bottle. And I played Spin the Bottle for the first time as an adult. And I was like, this is what I want for my birthday. And so we threw a Spin the Bottle party. And that was kind of the precursor to my friends asking for the orgy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I really thought it through and went through some journals, I could probably make sure it was the right timeline, because I do like to be accurate, and I know memory's fucked. But I started having my awakening and then realizing, because I was being promiscuous and starting to get slowly the hang of not falling in love with everybody. And there were a lot of mistakes along the way, and some amazing monogamous people that I fell in love with that I really, if I had been monogamous, we would have been so wonderful. Like they were amazing humans. And because I was good at monogamy, it was even more confusing. But me being in love just wants me to be more in love with more people. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't be until I read Celeste, the fuck is Celeste's last name? Not it's a book that's out of print called Lesbian Polyfidelity.
Okay.
Oh my God. There's like so many other stories because we don't have to go down that road. But basically I started figuring out I was queer because I was stripping in gay bars as a straight guy. And then I started hanging out with lesbians, and I didn't know why I felt so comfortable in lesbian world, back in the 90s. Like it didn't make sense. Because I shouldn't be there. And And then I had my first threesome ever with a gay couple. And that was all predicated on how not homophobic am I? Because I was stripping in gay bars being like, I can't believe my mom and dad raised me and probably my siblings to be not homophobic because clearly I'm not freaked out by being here. And I wish everyone would start if you're going to grab my dick, at least stuff a 20 in there. But like, I'm like, wow, how weird that I'm not freaked out by this. I must not be homophobic. And then it was like, I wonder how not homophobic I am. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm driving home from having done a private, dancing gig for a gay couple's birthday party. And then they invited me to stay as part of the birthday gift. And I was like, oh, okay. Because they were so in love. They were so sweet. And I'm driving home being like, I am really not homophobic. And then that was like, I never even considered that. So then it was like, well, I had to deconstruct monogamy and then reconsider like, I guess I'm not monogamous. And so then I already had some of the tools for deconstructing my straightness and being like, oh, well, I guess I'm just not straight. So what the fuck does that mean? Because I'm pretty sure I'm not gay and I can't be a lesbian. So what is that? And then it was like, wait, there's a thing called queer? Tell me more. And then that fed into, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that. There's something you've touched on a few times that I would love to dig into because it's really an interesting piece for me. And that is, how do I do this without falling in love with everybody? And you've said that a few different ways, a few different times. And also like, I think just definition wise, if people look strictly at the definition of polyamory, right? Love is baked into that, but you're talking about it in a way that's a little bit, I think there's nuance there. And I would love to understand what that means for you, like doing polyamory without falling in love with everybody and what that has looked like for you over the years.
Thank you. So I'll give you a couple of links for everybody. So the casual sex protocols, which also go by the nickname the slut protocols. You can go to readaboutsex.com, REID, aboutsex.com / protocols. And you can go get a free copy of the checklist. You can sign up for that. And what that was me figuring out when I was like sleeping with a lot of people as a bartender, like trying to solve for the problem of the people I'm sleeping with, they are also telling me, hey, I want to keep this casual. And then I was like, me too. But then we would tumble into some sort of what would be called now a situationship, right? We didn't have that word back then.
Yeah.
It was just playing the field, kids. And so it was like, yeah, like how do we not fall in love? And what does that mean? And so what I started trying to notice was the people I was sleeping with, if we only slept together once a month, that seemed to keep it at like a cruising altitude that worked pretty well. And there were a couple people where we could sleep together 2 times a month. But if it was 3 times a month or more, it was basically we were dating, right? Especially if the sex was great. So multiple hookups. Like, and can you have a one night stand with the same person multiple times? Like I was just a nerd being like, what is the meaning of this all? But what it was what triggers your imprinting, like in having you start to catch feels for people.
Yep.
And how do you mitigate that? So that the casual sex protocols is a whole checklist of, I guess you could use it for evil, which would also mean like if you want people to fall in love with you, just do everything opposite.
Invert it. Yeah. Do the photo negative of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But don't, because with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And so that helped me figure out with my friends how we can stay lovers and find that right cruising altitude. So then we had kind of a way to talk about it. And then when I would start doing sex education, it was like, oh yeah, I need to like make a handout for this. Because my friends would ask me like, so how do you keep it casual? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, and I would explain it. And then I'd be like, oh, I could just mail you a thing. Like, let me just write it down. So where that becomes in your question's a really good one around like, well, but you say you're poly, and polyamory is about being able to fall in love. So isn't that contradictory to what polyamory is? So let's talk about being a slut. And again, everyone's different. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but there was a conversation at Sex Down South many years ago that I was in the back of the room for, where the conversation came up about, being demisexual and, needing to have some sort of emotional knowledge of somebody before you start to get turned on. And then there were a couple of us in the room who were what would be termed mega sluts, which turned into megasexual. And I forget, maybe it was Lindy Dye. I forget who it was who coined it. But like Dr. Liz Powell was in the room. A couple of us who were like, we're like, oh, I think that's what I am. I need to have sex with you first to figure out if I like you and if I want to get to know you. It's not perfect in that way, but it's more of a like, oh, I like getting to know bodies before I get to know the person emotionally. And I think a lot of us are everything. It's not like a perfect Kinsey 5 or 1, but it's like, oh, my preference is why don't we get to know each other while we're having sex? And so then if you apply that to play parties, that kind of falls under the rubric of pickup play, which was a term from the kink community of like, would you have a scene with somebody you've just met? And is it comfortable for you to negotiate something quick and then play? And then the less kinky version of that is, oh, hey, like, you're at a play party, I'm at a play party. Do you want to play? What kind of play do you like? And then, we figure it out. So for me, I love falling in love, but the thing I had to learn was, are we a good fit for us to fall in love? And if you're not, like, what makes you a better fit? It doesn't have to be a perfect fit, but like, what makes it a better fit is that you would be looking for and wanting group sex, whether you ever met me or not. Yeah. Like, you're more my species because how I like to spend my time by default would be in a threesome or a foursome or a moresome. And that's been an interesting, arc in my relationship with Allison Moon, author of Girl Sex 101, available at girlsex101.com, is we co-teach a class called Slut Light, which is she's by most people's definition, she's slutty, but it's kind of like when you meet me, she's slut light because I'm slut heavy. And how you make that work, because it's not a desire or libido difference, it's a self-expression difference. You can both be musicians, and there's one musician who wants to jam every night at the club, and then the other one who just wants to cut an album every couple of years and play music, but not every night. Yeah. And it's not because your music libido is broken. It's just that that's how your creativity and your interest work. Yep. So hopefully that analogy holds up, because I'm beating the music analogy to death now.
No, I really appreciate it. And I think I feel like we could talk about this for hours and hours, because this is, to me, this is where I think this is one of the pieces that is like glue for so many people. And I think it's also a place where so many of us, we miss, because we're out here relating to one another and we're not necessarily having this conversation, or we're not really thinking about it in these terms. And it's like, I don't know, sometimes I think about it like, well, we could fall madly in love, and we're like, we go to one play party, we fool around, we fall madly in love. But it's like, what do we do with that? Because like my life and your life we probably can't sustain being madly in love with 10 people and seeing them every day. Right. But if I'm like, well, hey, we're madly in love and I'm totally cool if I see you once every 6 months, And you're totally cool if I see you, if that works for both of us and we can be like, oh, we're madly in love. Like, sure, you can do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of this for me is like really making sure when we do this with people, we're like, hey, what are you going to do like with the feel? Like almost, sometimes it almost feels fake. You're like you're artificially bounding something. But I also step back and I'm like, you kind of have to in life. There's so many times we do that in life.
Yeah. And you'd already mentioned firmware, like the firmware that we're, shipped with, I guess,
Yeah.
from our families is that, you're not supposed to shut down love. Like you're supposed to shut down affairs, right? But now you're in a relationship self-expression where you can be in love with multiple people at the same time. And like, so now I'm bad at poly, that I'm titrating my affections for somebody, right? Which is, again, it is those kind of like, these are logical fallacies, I think. Like you're asking, that's not the right question because the question's already, you were taught to think about the question that way.
Yep.
Right. And that's culture having its way with you.
Yep.
But also like what's a good fit for us, and also what allows for my ecosystem to work.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to get messy sometimes. We're all going to change.
Yeah. And we're going to think we know and we don't and we miss.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, these are going to happen.
Can you have room to not have to stay the same, but also re-investigate and, maybe shift some of how you do things and reprioritize, and then like what's working, what's not working. And so like it's complicated, but it's just as complicated in monogamy because people change over time in all the things. I think when Allison and I teach like non-monogamy classes together, part of it, the way that I talk about it is like, what's easier for you? Not like avoiding trouble, but like if I was in a relationship where I couldn't fall in love with other people, that would be so incredibly hard for me. Whereas for my swinger friends, falling in love makes things wicked hard for them.
Yep.
So it's just easier for them not to fall in love. Whereas for me, it's easier to be in a relationship where it's okay for me to fall in love with people and people aren't freaking the fuck out or feeling violated, right? So there is like a kind of like going back to what you think your self-expression is and how love and relationships come through you.
Yeah.
And then like learning how to pump the brakes and then also pick better people in that people who are a better fit for you. Because that is about noticing where the friction is coming from in the relationship.
Yeah.
And that analogy that I use is like a car driving up a hill. The engine works harder. That's normal. But a lot of us are driving around town with the parking brake on.
Yep.
And there's all this extra friction coming from, through the engine that's not supposed to be there. So it's about noticing, is this just a difficult time? Is our relationship difficult because my partner, when they're in NRE, is a fucking moron and completely forgets about me and their agreements, which maybe we can change, or maybe, if it's not creating trauma and harm, I just have to be okay that like my partner is high off their mind right now. And the drug dealer is the drug. It's their new relationship. And in about 12 months, if I'm lucky 10, it'll start they'll start to come down from the high. So can we have a conversation about how we handle the NRE period?
Yeah.
And then maybe we can find a thing. And then it's not horrible that you found somebody, but ideally this is another conversation for another workshop for another time. It's like, hopefully you're picking people to fall in love with whose metamor style is compatible with what you already have going on in your ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you bringing an invasive species into my bog, you son of a bitch?
Yeah.
There's so many pieces to this.
Totally. Well, and one of the things that I think about, like to me at the core of some of this too, is just also like let's say I fall in love with someone, somebody falls in love with me. And if I have to change my life so much that I'm no longer the person that I was when you fell in love with me, because that's what was required to meet whatever needs, like, I think that's where I step back and I'm like, it's not even like, it's not about veto power or hierarchy so much of the time as it is about like, this is my life. This is the life I'm living. And this is also why I'm an awesome person that you fell in love with. And if I have to change so much of that
Yeah.
to be around you and to be in a relationship with you, I may no longer be that person that you fell in love with because I had to change. And
Exactly.
it's not about Emma came along and said veto. It's about my life was like veto. If
Yeah.
you do this, you're
Well,
going to blow your life up.
and it is it is a way you start to think about it. Like the person or the qualities you would need in a person to start a relationship that would enhance the existing, ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think a lot of us are just starting to like codify that conversation because so many of us were just undoing all the shame
Yeah.
Yeah.
and cultural expectations of monogamy. So like hopefully we're coming up with better and better nuances and observations.
Yeah.
And how do we navigate those things? And then there is a certain kind of discernment that feels very unromantic. But then depending on people's self-expressions, it's like, you know what? We wouldn't really be good for each other's ecosystems. But when I see you at a play party, please let us throw down together
Mm-hmm.
because that is great.
Yeah.
And then you find places where it's okay and you can really let loose. But again, so much of that for all of us is trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully conversations like this, nerding out on podcasts and workshops and going to events, like you just start skill set sharing and learning from everybody. And then hopefully, you have some aha moments and you can and apply them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
I know.
I'm like, I want to do just a 7-hour just podcast-a-thon with you, Reid. We'll just sit and talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
No, I love it. Thank you so much. Cause like this kind of brain sex is what I like my sapiosexual part is like, yes. And like, and again, like the gratitude that you're trusting me and you're curating for your community, for your listeners. Like, I really do hope everyone that this has been useful. And if anyone ever wants to email me or, pop into my DMs, it's Reid About Sex on online and readaboutsex.com. But like, let me know what was helpful or useful in listening to this, because like, again, like my nerd never shuts off. Like, and I need that feedback because sometimes I'm worried I've been doing this so long and doing it in a particular way. Is it just all useful for me or is it actually helping other people? Like I'm so worried now because I'm 58. Like when do I become that old man who's shaking his fist at the clouds? And I mean, but it's possible that some of my advice doesn't really work anymore because it's old firmware.
Yeah.
It was new in the 90s and in the aughts, but maybe by 2026, maybe there's something better out there. So like, how do we find that out?
Yeah.
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 Reach out to us.
Constant learning and conversations.
Yeah. And I think, just maybe a thought too about when you were talking about your time working at the bar and talking to people. I've started to realize this over the last maybe year or two that this podcast for me for sure was exactly that same thing. Like I want to have these conversations and part of this is it gives us a hack to where we can ask people all the invasive questions about sex, their relationships. Why did you do that? Well, tell me more.
Yeah.
In an environment where then everyone else can hear it too. And I'm hearing it. Emma's here. Like we're learning alongside. We're learning to swim just like everybody else is learning to swim. You go back and listen to us 8 years ago.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, is it cringy to do?
Well, here's a question I guess we can maybe end on, right? Because I'm trying to be respectful of your time because, I could talk all day too. But like, and Emma, I'll start with you. Like, how has poly changed for you? Do you think like the scene of it, right? Because one as a woman too, but like what have you noticed in the years since you started podcasting? Like, how's it changed for you?
Yeah. I mean, to not make this a half-hour answer,
you got to save a half hour for me.
I know. I mean, I know that like back in the day, well before podcasting, I definitely was very naive, and it took time to like learn all these things, and it took a long time for both of us together to learn and grow over time. But then I feel like starting the podcast, we had been in the non-monogamy world for quite a while at that point, about a decade. And so
mostly swinging.
But mostly, in the swinging world. And then but I feel like starting the podcast accelerated all of my learning for sure, because I just started communicating with so many different people from so many different backgrounds. And I love talking to educators and leaders and people with platforms. And I also love our conversations of just people who don't have any of that, who have just figured out non-monogamy on their own in whatever way. And just be like, I mean, we've talked to people, a couple people over the years. I remember one couple who they started non-monogamy back in like the 80s, early 90s, and didn't have any books or didn't go down that route. They just learned along the way and just figured it out for their relationship. And
that's Laura and John, if anyone's interested. I don't remember the episode number, but I know that's the episode you're talking about.
And so I think it has really accelerated my understanding and learning about relationship structures and how to communicate, how to be in relationship with different people in different ways, and that there's a lot of different ways to do it. There is definitely not one way. And that monogamy is also just as valid as non-monogamy. Like, that's one thing we started at the very beginning of this podcast. Like, we've never been wanting to tell people monogamy is wrong or bad. It's just, you have choice, and you have lots of choices to figure out what is best for you. And yeah, I could go on and on, but I feel like it has opened up my world in so many ways I would not be where I'm at today in life without all the connections and people we've talked to over the years. It's led me to a completely different career path, and going back to grad school and all of that over the last 8 years. So,
wow. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Also, I just double checked episode 269 with Laura and John. I was going to say, I was like, I knew it was like mid 250s, but yeah.
Good job, detective.
That's right. I will say for me, similar to a bit of what Emma said. I mean, my worldview has often been very black or white, and so it hit a lot of this podcast particularly has given us an opportunity to talk to so many people, and for me to start seeing all the colors of the rainbow in between, I think often was, strict swinging, which Emma and I got our start in non-monogamy in the Midwest in swinging, and it was very sort of heteronormative. Unless you're a woman, got to be bi, and very much like, our vision was always like, we really want to make friends that maybe we can have sex with. Like, it was never like we want to have sex.
At least we can have conversations about anything with.
Yeah. Like, the model was always like, love to be able to like go on vacation and go hiking. And then maybe we're sitting in the hot tub and it's okay to be topless, and it's okay for it to stop there.
Yeah.
Or it's okay if maybe we fool around, but like, nobody has to do things.
Yeah.
And we started to run into things like, we wouldn't be able to play one night, and we were supposed to see a couple, and like, oh, it was a bad time of the month. And they're like, oh, well, maybe in a couple of weeks we can get together. And it's like, well,
come over anyway. We'll have
we couldn't just hang out and like be friends. And so we started to see this very like binary that just
Mhm.
never was us. And I think polyamory, I didn't have much of a framework for it. And so that
Yeah.
felt like it was, the pendulum was like so far in the other direction.
Mhm.
And so finding that middle ground, and I will say a lot of that has been trial and error. You know, we spent a lot of time in the swinging world, and then we swung the pendulum
The other
pretty
direction.
hard to a very intense polyamorous quad situation,
Mhm.
and finding now this middle ground that is like, you know, you talking about casual sex and being really slutty, but also like being in, you could still be in love. And I think you can be in love and have quote unquote casual sex, right? Like
Yeah.
you can
Like,
do that.
I have what I call my slut family, which are my close friends who we all love group sex and
Hmm.
just shenanigans.
Yep.
And so, when I have my slut family gatherings, it's like the way my sister-in-law and her besties get together and rent an Airbnb,
Yep.
except that, we're cooking dinner and playing board games and drinking wine or whatever, and then we fuck.
Yep.
And my sister-in-law finally, she still can't wrap her head around it other than, I'm like, these are your ride and die people for the rest of your life, and you know that. The only difference between you and me is I fuck them and you don't.
Hmm.
And like, and it's okay.
Yep.
Right. And when I said that to her for the first time, it was with all of her besties there, and they all looked at each other like with the like, could I be having sex with you? And it was like, no, no, everyone wipe that from your minds. And God bless my sister-in-law. I love her dearly. And like, but she was like, that was really helpful
Hmm.
because I thought casual didn't mean you cared
Meaningful.
about people.
Yeah.
And I'm
Care.
like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a common misconception.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's exactly it is this. I think I would often be like, well, yeah, you can either have completely quote unquote, meaningless, anonymous sex, or
Mhm.
you can like, you can fall in love and get on the relationship escalator if you have sex. And
Well, I think that's really common for many, many people to think about. Like
right.
that's your
Yeah.
options.
And to find, I think it was learning that there was a middle ground, but then also like figuring out how to be in that middle ground is a whole different thing because you can think it all day long, but when you're in the moment and you're like, oh God, I should be in love and I've got to give them more. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I don't have to give them, like, the caretaker, the people pleaser, all those things come out. And you're like, well, I fooled around with you. I probably need to get engaged with you at some point. And it's like,
Yep.
no, no,
And that's a
no.
lot of unwiring. It still
Right.
is deep. It like
Yep.
the tendrils are deep.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, this has been,
Amazing.
yeah, I think
Yay.
the thing I always come back to right now in life in general and that I'm trying to embrace is nuance. And I think there's so
Mhm.
much, right? So many of the words we throw out, slut and love and like they're all nuanced. And the thing that Emma and I often come around when we talk to people is like, yeah, okay, you're polyamorous. What does that mean to you? Oh, you're a swinger?
Yep.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah,
Because
What does that mean to
the
you?
labels are a start to the
it's
conversation.
it's
Yeah.
so fun when you ask two people and one says I'm a swinger and one says they're polyamorous and you're like, what does that mean to you? And they tell you the exact same thing and you're like, oh cool, you guys would really get along.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like I've seen because I teach at swinger events too, like the swinger people who are confused that they want to go on vacation with their friends that they also fuck.
Yep.
And I love my friends. Does that mean I'm poly? And I'm like, hey, as long as you guys are happy
Yep.
and it's not making things so complicated, like if it would be harder for the four of you not to go on vacation together and do sightseeing and fucking because you'd be sad because you really want to do all these other things with them and you still want to sleep with them, call it whatever the fuck you want. But I haven't heard a good term for that yet.
Nope.
Mhm.
So that hybrid
Yep.
of, well, we can only see each other at events because if you come over to our house and we start barbecuing together, well, that's a slippery slope to what? Like
Right.
you have friends who come over and barbecue, but you're in the closet with them. Wouldn't it be nice to not be in the closet? But then like, what are you afraid of? And that question of what are you afraid of can be just really helpful to start like thinking about like, yeah, what is that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And maybe it's legitimate to, to be afraid of that thing. Or maybe it can be, when you name it, it takes up less space and power in your head, and then you can have a conversation about it. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think the conversation that I've tried to, I think to me what that conversation is like, here's how I feel, here's how you feel, what are we going to do with it? And I know that like
Mhm.
boils it way down to like the bare
Mm.
bones, but like if let's say like you fall in love with your best friend and it's not mutual, but you can actually come together and say like, hey, look, yeah, I'm in love with you, you're not in love with me. What do we both want to do with this? Well,
Yeah.
can we just keep doing what we're doing? And I'm okay knowing you love me because maybe don't feel it like beating on me
Mhm.
every time we hang out. And you're okay with it because you're not like, if we're both cool with that, then like, why do we have to mix it
It's
up?
making me think of that there might be like a slut protocols checklist version, like a casual sex checklist version for swingers who are afraid of falling in love. It's kind of like, hey, if you and I just fuck my wife every quarter, then I think we're great, or whatever that is. Like,
Yeah.
and we have one play date and then one barbecue, and we can't have another play date until we have at least one platonic barbecue. Maybe that's all the right thing. I don't know. Who knows?
Experiment.
You've got to build a
Exactly.
formula. There's an algorithm and an app for it. You just punch in what you've done, and it says like, where are you?
Yeah,
How
the
how
nerd
close are
version.
you to the
Well,
switch end
but
of
if you
the?
think about it, like, it's kind of like the version of your how you imprint
Mm-hmm.
if you were just doing solo,
Yeah.
poly,
Mm-hmm.
right? I wonder if now I'm nerding. Like, I wonder if there's like a swinger calibration for this where they're like, oh, so we could be friends with these people. If we hang out too much, then it gets weird. But for other couples, it would be like, no, like, of course I want to hang out with my friends. And of course, we don't always have to sleep together. Like, we can just
Mm-hmm.
check in.
Yeah.
Like, but why can't we just be friends? And why can't you just come over and just come over for dinner? It doesn't have to be about the sex. But I know, because some of the swingers I've worked with, that's so confusing to them, because it has to be, you can never meet our kids.
Yeah.
We can only play with people 100 miles away from where we live. Like, all these rules, which I understand where they came from.
Yeah.
But now that you're in the relationship and it feels solid, I guess you could revisit some of that stuff, because what do you feel like you're missing?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That these things aren't. They're not fixed. They're not
Yeah.
carved in stone.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought too that maybe I wanted to throw out here around these like creating these sort of boxes that we're talking about, these structures. I think just to make it really clear to people that the importance of communicating that to the other person or other people that you're doing this with, that if you're like, well, my plan is to only see this person once a month, so I don't fall in here, like, to let them know, like, hey, this is what I have envisioned for you and me and our dynamic.
Mhm.
So they're not trying to reach out every week and hang out. And you're over here holding them at an arm's length.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck is going on? I thought we really like each other. And it's like, no, I love you, but I only see you once a month. Like, communicate
That's a whole nother podcast around
it.
communication styles and stuff, because I think there are some ways. Oh my God, there's so many things. So, and I'll just say, because I was going to talk about special, like
Mhm.
feeling special.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes in with the jealousy map.
Mhm.
So if people want to nerd out on the jealousy piece, go to readaboutsex.com/jealousy and just download the 8-armed octopus of jealousy map. But there are pieces of, like, if I send you, like if the three of us were in whatever, and I send you a meme,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh, I sent us a meme, and I sent it also to 6 other people that are
Yep.
special to me, will you feel less special?
Yep.
Or will you feel just as happy?
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, like, everyone's different. But like, when I start crushing on people and we're trying to figure out if there's a fit for us, I tell them, I'm like, when you get a reel from me, because I'm a DM and reels and memes person, and I'm horrible at texting back immediately, are you still going to feel happy if you knew I shared that with like at least 5 other people? Every time, forever.
Yeah.
And, and I've had lovers who are like, nope, I'm the only one you can send that meme to. And I'm like, it's going to be so hard. I'm going to, or like on Marco Polo, because I like the video like app with people. I had one lover of mine who was like, if you don't say my name immediately, I will know that you sent it to other people. And that's not cool for me.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, okay. And so what I would have to do, because I would video something, I'm like, I've got to send this to everybody. I would video her and be like, I'm about to send you something I'm sending to everybody, but because I'm telling you I'm sending it to everybody, it's okay. So there, feel special. And that worked for a little while.
Yeah.
Until she found somebody who only wanted her, and then she was happy, right? But like, again, everyone's different, but like knowing these little things about how you work and then being able to check in with people like, hey, is this really going to bring you joy? Or will you slowly grow to resent me because of this?
Yep.
Because there are some things I can try to remember to do. And then there are some things I'm automatically going to fail you at some point consistently. And all I can tell you is, if this is a deal breaker for you, whatever it is, we should break this now.
Yeah.
And then maybe we just play it at festivals or something, like when we run into each other.
Right. Yeah. Break this doesn't mean don't ever talk to me. It's
exactly.
But reassign it to a different bucket that feels better to both of us.
And making sure everyone's opting in. Like that's,
Yeah. So,
man.
So, which is really, as a, I wouldn't even say recovering people pleaser. You're just like, wow, Reid, this is what my therapist would say. This is a complex system for you to just make sure no one ever gets mad at you. I'm like, welcome to my world.
Well, you're talking to 2 others, Reid. So
yes.
All these non-people pleasers out there listening to us, like, what is wrong with these 3?
It's just polyamory is just people pleasing for overachievers.
Yep.
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 Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Oh, this was a delight.
Yes. Yeah, it was a delight.
And you've plugged your work a ton, and links to all your work will be in the show notes. People can find everything you've talked about and find your work. Check it out. And you've agreed to stick around for some bonus questions where we'll get a little spicy maybe. So
that's right. And so for all of you who aren't subscribers to these 2 amazing human beings, I guess you're never going to know what's going on.
You'll never know. All right, well, let's go do some top secret content. And
over on the premium subscriber subscription.
Oh, yeah. On the premium subscriber list.
Yes.
Thank you for being here, Reid. It was a delight.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Reid, for coming on and sharing your story and for sharing tips and tricks and your own wisdom as well. It was wonderful to talk with you today. A quick reminder to all you listeners to go over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, click on the podcast tab, and you can find links to all of Reid's work there.
And while you're on our homepage of our website, you can sign up for the premium subscription so you can go get a little bit more Reid in your life today. The bonus content with Reid, again, absolutely incredible, super fun. You also get Reid's favorite sex advice ever. So right there alone, that one's worth it. So thank you again, Reid, from my side for coming on, for sharing your story, and again, for all the incredible work you do.
A quick reminder that our next community monthly workshop is tonight. That's May 27th, 2026, and it's going to be with me, Shay, on building emotional resilience. You can find out more over on the community tab of our website. We'd love to have you come join us.
And next week, you wouldn't believe it, but we're coming back at you with another interview. This one is an absolutely beautiful conversation with Glory, an incredibly powerful story. So please join us next week. We will see you then. And we would also love to see you tonight at our workshop. So still got time to join us.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.